Welcome to my today's show, and therefore today we're going to deal with the news anchor from my desk today, and you have me host Dennis Mwendwa, and we're going to check on the president and the CBC, and mostly the tough lesson, and who is learning, and therefore this week I begin with points of praise, its monument of complaints, criticism, and mere obligations, including here on my table anchor. And therefore, the President Uhuru Kenyatta finally began to speak on the burning questions of the ongoing changes on the education sector. I say he began because there is so much to be said about the CBC at its Mashujaa Day speech that nearly scratched in the surface. But I begin with some practices because the president spoke about one of the most pressing matters on the CBC, mainly the infrastructure. As we have noted here many times before, the country is heading towards a transition stampede. And therefore, in 2023, when the first CBC cohort will be expected to be moving to the junior secondary school at the same time with the current Class 6 learning in 844 system. Now this will usher in a traditional of about 1 million to 1.5 million learners in the secondary school that we know today. That is why the president directed the officers to begin the process for ensuring there are additional 10,000 classrooms to meet the part of the demand. Now it is a commendable first step as it's still far cry from what we'll hear from the needed in 2023. 10,000 classrooms should be able to accommodate only 5,000 learners, translating just about half of the extra, if not less. President called the MPs to corporatize the education in their CDF allocations that would help, but then it will ultimately depend on the MPs what they're trying to think about. What more, the president did not put any timeline on the construction of the opening of the system, and therefore this is definitely creating further delays. But behind the classrooms, few challenges still remain, and perhaps the president should have gone further, for instance, giving the practical measures of CBC as we've been told. What other facilities are needed to make the system work? Are there just the classrooms alone? Are we still preparing for other transition, for example, from junior secondary to senior secondary? This is just a few years just before, the senior secondary school, for example, are they properly in place? Do they have adequate facilities for specialization that will be needed to happen when the learners have to upgrade to the junior secondary? Then, on the pathways, is they are called now, or are we going to wait until if transition enters another of the mad rush? Then there is a question of teachers. But let me estimate there is teachers deficit in this country between 80,000 and 200,000. Where are we going to ensure that we get more teachers for the system before the plan is onset? I mean, the extra classrooms should have extra teachers, and how can we achieve that custom nature of the IEBC if we don't have adequate number of teachers in the system and even the country? Further, up until now, there are still complaints that some teachers are yet to receive the training on how to handle the new curriculum. What has been done? What about the parents? Do they actually know their role has been expanded with the new curriculum? Has anyone taken time to ensure that parents get proper orientation on how they make sure the system is working? Now, ladies and gentlemen, there is famous saying from where I come from, whereby starting early is better than going to a witch doctor. Now, those legends from my clan knew that real results came from good planning, and amount of abracadabra could save no one from natural consequences of poor planning. That is why preparation for CBC must go beyond the current shortcomings. We must not think about the entire chain and hacks. Beyond the changes in pre-primary and primary schools, what reforms are happening in high schools, and how prepared are the high school teachers to receive the CBC new cohort in less than 1 year time? And what about the universities? Are they getting ready or just waiting to deal with the crisis when it gets to their doorsteps? Nonetheless, the president has begun the conversation, and from here around, his officers are at all the levels must go to work. And after all, the whole department is now dealing with the implementation, and it's difficult to think more important on the history of the country. This is the system that will produce the next set of doctors that will be treating us when we get sick. The teachers to continue imparting knowledge to our students and our young ones. The engineers to build our roads. The plumbers to ensure that we have sufficient water. Then, I could go far wide away from my point today, and therefore we can have a date with our destiny. The very future of our nation is now at stake. And if we don't learn the lesson, then make amends. Not even CBC will save us. And that's what I have to you and my anchor of table today. Thank you for the show. Your host, Dennis.